Hello, my name is Tereza Gerashka, and I am a teacher in science, information technology, and ecology. Today I will present my lesson on the topic, oil spillages in the Danube River, causes, impact, and treatment. I designed this lesson with the aim of helping my students understand the causes and consequences of oil pollution, as well as to explore practical methods for cleaning oil spills. At the same time, I wanted to raise their environmental awareness and encourage responsible behavior towards nature. In my lesson, I begin by introducing the Danube River as one of the most important rivers in Europe. I explain its significance for both natural ecosystems and human activities such as transport, agriculture, and industry. I also emphasize its role in supporting biodiversity and providing habitats for many species. After that, I guide my students towards the problem of pollution, focusing on oil spillages as one of the most serious types of water pollution. I explain that these incidents are mainly caused by human activities such as ship accidents, oil transportation, industrial pollution, and human error. I also point out that even small spills can lead to serious environmental damage. I continue by discussing the impact of oil spills. I explain to my students how oil pollutes the water, reduces oxygen levels, and harms plants and animals. We talk about how entire ecosystems can be affected and how recovery can take a very long time. Next, I introduce the behavior of oil in water. I explain that oil floats on the surface and spreads quickly, influenced by wind and currents. I also discuss how, in some cases, oil can reach the bottom or stick to surfaces, which makes the cleaning process even more difficult. Then, I present the main methods used for cleaning oil spills, sorbents, skimmers, and booms. I explain the function of each method so that students have a clear understanding before moving to the practical activity. The most important part of my lesson is the hands-on activity, where I actively involve my students in learning. I organize them into groups and guide them through a simulation of an oil spill. For the experiment, I prepared a container with water and added vegetable oil mixed with black shimmery mica powder to simulate a real oil spill. I also created an uneven surface inside the container to represent the riverbed and to demonstrate how oil can become more difficult to remove if it reaches the bottom. During the activity, I encourage my students to explore and experiment. Each group tests different cleaning methods and observes the results. First, they use cotton as a sorbent material to absorb the oil from the surface. Then, they use spoons and plastic cups as skimmers to collect the oil. Finally, they create a simple boom using cotton and thread to contain and gather the oil. I provide them with worksheets where they record their observations and results. After completing the experiment, I guide them in comparing the effectiveness of each method and reflecting on their experience. Through this activity, I aim to develop their practical skills, critical thinking, and teamwork. I also want them to better understand real environmental problems and how science can help solve them. In addition, I encourage my students to ask questions, make predictions, and reflect on their own ideas. This helps them become more active participants in the learning process rather than passive listeners. I also focus on building their problem-solving skills by allowing them to experiment freely and learn from both successful and unsuccessful attempts. This way, they understand that mistakes are part of learning and scientific discovery. Another important goal for me is to connect the lesson to real-life situations. By simulating an actual environmental problem, students can better realize the seriousness of oil pollution and its impact on nature and society. I also aim to develop their sense of responsibility towards the environment. Through discussion and reflection, students begin to understand that protecting nature is not only the role of scientists, but also a responsibility of every individual. Finally, this activity supports interdisciplinary learning, as it combines knowledge from science, ecology, and environmental education, while also developing communication and collaboration skills. At the end of the lesson, I lead a discussion where students share their observations and conclusions. Together, we reflect on which methods were most effective and why. I finish the lesson by emphasizing that oil spills are difficult to manage and can have serious consequences. That is why I encourage my students to think about prevention and responsible behavior as key factors in protecting our environment. Through this lesson, I aim not only to teach knowledge, but also to inspire my students to become more aware and responsible towards nature. Thank you for your attention.